Le nostre valutazioni de pilote
del Gran Premio d'Italia. This video is sponsored by the wonderful people at Squarespace.
Tommy, how are you feeling ahead of this one? Of course, usually the more boring ones, which I think Monza absolutely fairly can be labelled more towards the less intriguing of the ones we've had this season, usually are a little bit easier to grade. But then again, I think there are some very 50-50 incidents to discuss that might well push people's ratings one way or another.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking through this, and there are a few in there that I think can be kind of a bit contentious, which is good, as long as we all respect each other's opinion. We don't have to agree. I don't think we should agree. No, that's boring.
No. Right, let's start with Gabriele Bortoleto, who started the race in 7th and finished 8th. I am locking in a 9 out of 10 for Gabriele Bortoleto this week. Her phenomenal qualifying was strong all weekend long. It's not going to be a 10 because just perhaps
the sub is amazing now.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's so hard, with the chopping and changing of some teams and their performance. But a 9 out of 10 is very solid for Bortoleto. Of course, lost a position from where he started, but overall, very solid weekend, and he can be very happy how he's continued after the summer break.
Absolutely. I've gone for a 9 out of 10 as well for Bortoleto. Fantastic qualifying, fantastic race result. Of course, lost a position, which was mainly due to Lewis Hamilton coming through the field, of course, after his grid drop. But another great performance from Bortoleto. And if you'd said at the start of the year that a Sauber qualifying 7th and finishing 8th would be a 9 out of 10, I'd have been like, what planet are we on? But that is the way it goes. It's not a 10 drive, but it's still another fantastic result for Bortoleto.
Absolutely. The fans, they agree. They've gone for a 9 out of 10 as well. Nico Hülkenberg qualified 12th, because usually we say started, but he didn't really start because he didn't start. DNS.
He didn't, and that's why it's surely got to be an NA.
Well, it has to be, because you gave Max an NA and he did 2 corners this year. So that's less than 2 corners. It's absolutely fair enough. Of course, we'll reflect on his qualifying. Of course, better than it has been, but not as good as his teammate, which seems to be a recurring theme.
A trend at the moment, doesn't it? For sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, and not applicable for both of us, for Nico. The fans, are we also putting them down as an NA, even though they've given a 5?
You can't vote as an NA on the form, so maybe
I think if we give an NA, the fans have to give an NA as well, right?
It's void the whole result, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're looking to create a stunning website, Squarespace is your go-to platform. It's an all-in-one solution that really empowers entrepreneurs. I've been using it, and let me tell you, the experience has been fantastic. One of my favourite features is Design Intelligence. It combines 2 decades of design expertise with AI, helping you craft a personalised website that truly reflects your brand. It's like having a design expert by your side. Then there's Squarespace Payments, where managing transactions is so simple. You can accept a variety of payment methods, making it super convenient for your customers. And let's not forget Blueprint AI. This tool helps you build a custom site in just a few clicks. It takes your basic info and transforms it into a beautifully designed website, complete with curated content that matches your aesthetic. When you're ready to launch, check out squarespace.com/P1 to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. Trust me, you won't regret it.
Okay, let's move to Alex Albon. Started the race in 14th, finished 7th. I'm going to go for a 9 out of 10 for Alex Albon. An incredible race from him, of course, qualifying behind his teammate. I think it was the right strategy for Alex Albon. Essentially gained more positions that those ahead had pit. And yeah, it was just a really good one. I don't know if I can give him a 10, just purely because I think there's a little bit of a knockdown from qualifying, but overall, really solid weekend once again for Alex Albon. Like, this guy is just farming great weekends every single time.
He sure is. I've gone for a 9 as well. Another brilliant result for Alex Albon. Didn't have the great qualifying, and he did have the superior strategy of the 2 Williams drivers, but that's not to take anything away from him because he drove
the superior
brilliantly.
Strategy of not colliding with another car.
but also the pit.
I'm
kidding. The pits. He's doing so well this year. It can't be said enough. He's now ahead of Antonelli in the championship. He is 7th in the World Championship in a Williams. He is just bagging so many points. It's so impressive what he's doing. Amazing pace again from him to grab a P7.
Well done to Alex Albon. The fans gave him a 9 out of 10. Carlos Sainz started the race in 13th, finished 11th.
Oh, it's the first contentious result of the driver ratings. So I will say my result, and then I will explain it before everyone writes their comment first. So feel free to write your comment afterwards. 7 out of 10. The reason I've gone for a 7 is because he outqualified his teammate. He had the worst strategy. And if he hadn't collided with Ollie Behrman, he would have obviously been in the points. So, in my opinion, that would have been a 7. I can hear everyone already screaming about this Ollie Behrman incident with Carlos Sainz. I understand why it's contentious. I have watched this so many times to basically see if my opinion has changed on it. And for me, it hasn't. And I totally understand why some people are like, Carlos has turned in. And he has. He's turned in as if Ollie Behrman is not there. But my opinion on this incident is Ollie Behrman has to know when to back out of a move. As they get into the braking zone, I've seen people saying he's halfway alongside. He's not. His front wing is pretty much at his rear tyre.
To be fair, his front right is just past his left rear of Carlos Sainz. That's how I saw it.
Not before Sainz hits the brakes. So Ollie Behrman brakes later. Mm-hmm. So it's he goes even later and steams in. I think Ollie Behrman should have known better there. I do appreciate that Carlos Sainz has turned in as if Ollie Behrman isn't there, but I also believe that most other drivers probably would have known when to quit in that situation because Carlos was ahead. So yeah, it's a contentious one. I can see why some people maybe think it's Carlos's fault, and then of course that would reflect a much worse grade than this, but I believe that Carlos was unfortunate this weekend.
Okay, I've written my comment, Tommy, and you are a hater. So my grade for Carlos Sainz is a 6 out of 10. He had his part to play, I think, in this incident for sure, and I've watched it back, and sometimes, you can change your opinion. I'm not going to change my opinion. I still think Ollie Behrman was at fault, despite a lot of people thinking the other way around and that Carlos closed the door when he shouldn't have. If you look at the racing rules, which, we don't like, but the inside, which is technically the next corner where Ollie Behrman is attempting to overtake once having been overtaken, it's a grey area, isn't it, of who is the overtaking car right now? Is it Carlos or is it Ollie as we go to the next corner where Carlos is ahead? For me, my head is saying that's Carlos is now the defending driver and Ollie is now the attempting the overtake. So, for the inside corner, the front axle has to be alongside the mirror at the apex and also to be controlled and within track limits. He's not that far alongside, and therefore, with the racing rules, if it is met, if, for example, you do get alongside the mirror of the defending car, then they have to leave space. Up until that point, they don't have to leave space. That is literally in the rule book. So Carlos probably has seen that and gone, well, it's up to Ollie to not crash into me. I think Carlos definitely has, as I say, a part to play where he could have thought, and it's his very split-second decisions. He could have gone, I'm just going to straight line this and just basically not that. But then I guess on the flip side of that, he is still attempting to finish an overtake and probably thought, well, I have to make this corner, otherwise I might be asked to give the position back. So I've gone for a 6 because, I still think there's a small part to play for Carlos. It cost him points again. How many weekends have we spoken about where Carlos something's gone wrong? A lot out of his control, but it's still a 6. It's not a horrendous grade, but it is very much a what could have been once again for Carlos Sainz when he had shown, some promise. The fans gave him a 6 as well. Isaac Hadjar started the race from the pit lane and finished P10. This one's a tasty one because Hadjar gained massively from the incident we just spoke about between Sainz and Behrman. It literally opened the door for him to gain 2 positions. I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Hadjar. Obviously qualifying was poor. He even said himself he made a mistake, had a terrible Q1. But to bounce back to P10 is a great result for him in a racing ball that I am still convinced is a very good car. So that's why I've not gone for an 8 or a 9, despite there might be questions of Matt. But he went from the pit lane to P10. That's an unbelievable drive. Yes, it is a good one. Hence why I've given it a 7. So that's what I've done.
I will go for an 8 out of 10 for Hadjar. It's touch and go between a 7 and an 8 for me. I just think that the Racing Bulls, I don't think was suited to this track or particularly great. It's not a 9 because he's qualified badly through his own doing anyway as well. Although I guess in his opinion there was some mess with the Williams that he was of course very angry about in qualifying. But yeah, he's made his way through the field to get a point, which I don't think should have been possible, and I can't believe happened when he started from the pit lane. So another good drive from Hadjar.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, I've gone for a 7 because I see it as very much a gaining of 2 positions through.
It's close for sure in my opinion.
That's a P12 in my head without the Sainz and Behrman incident. But hey ho, he got a point. Well done, Hadjar. The fans gave him a 7 as well. Liam Lawson started the race in 18th, finished 14th.
I have gone for a 5 out of 10. It was kind of doomed after qualifying, and unlike his teammate, he had a inferior strategy. The soft tyre gamble didn't really work at all. And I do think, I'm still adamant, he was quite unlucky with Tsunoda personally. So yeah, I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Lawson. But I think Tsunoda didn't give him enough room, and then he was told to let the place back.
Well, Tommy, I'm going to whip out the racing rules once again, but I'll say my grade first. I've gone for a 5 out of 10 as well for Lawson, but it was on him to not make the contact with Yuki Tsunoda, because if you could try and go around the outside, which is what he was doing, it's the outside which then turns to the inside, obviously for the next part of the chicane, his front axle has to be ahead at the apex and in control and within track limits. His front axle was not ahead of Yuki Tsunoda's front axle, and therefore, by the rules, Yuki is allowed to say, nice try, mate, but I don't need to give you space. So that's where I sit on that one, and as much as we might disagree with the racing rules, and I don't like the fact that drivers can just be like, no.
They can manipulate it a bit now, can't they? They're all getting a bit wise to it, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How to play it, yeah.
Because the FIA literally got rid of the part where it's like you have to kind of keep an eye on your opponent in terms of don't push them off the track. That's been removed for this year, so that's why this we've had obviously so many conversations about Max Verstappen and when he's dive bombed into an apex and things like that. So it's still a 5 though, for Lawson. It's a shame because I genuinely thought he was on for a little maybe even a cheeky point at one point. My good surprise for this weekend. Because he did go for the soft tyre, which was the inferior strategy, but also we knew that from the get-go. Like that was a decision that was made by him and the team to try and make up from a disappointing qualifying. But he was just on those hard tyres for far too long and wasn't able to pull it off. The fans gave him a 5 as well. Ollie Behrman started the race in 11th, finished 12th. I put Ollie Behrman down more for this. I said... It's tough. Okay, I'm going to give Ollie Behrman... It's still a 6 out of 10. It genuinely is. I was going to maybe give him lower for the incident, but he still finished 12th. He qualified ahead of his teammate, still beat his teammate, despite the crash. I know Ocon was doing some wild strategy of praying for a safety car or a red flag. But yeah, it could have been so much better for Ollie Behrman, and I don't want to go back to saying this after the great result he had last time out. It could have been better. He could have scored points, but I still think Ollie had a little bit more of a part to play, as we've already spoken about, by not putting his nose into a chicane that is so difficult to overtake at as well. It's still a 6 because it could have been an 8, and that's where I stand.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Ollie Behrman.
Crazy.
Crazy. One difference.
Crazy slander.
Yeah.
5 just feels so much worse. You know what I'm saying?
I do blame him for the incident. I think he should have backed out. He's shown so much promise and had really good speed this year, but clumsy incidents. He's now on 10 penalty points as well as a rookie, which is quite insane to be
2 away from a ban.
2 away from a ban at this point of the season. That's also another reason that I'm giving this grade, because in theory those penalty points are meant to be a.
You're downgrading him for previous incidents, Tommy.
No. As in he needed to back out of that move, in my opinion, and just know when it was kind of done. And it's a risky move, and I do blame him for it. So he's cost his team points there, so I'm going for a 5.
And then there's Rosberg, who thinks we're completely wrong and thought Carlos should get a penalty, which I cannot see in any world where you read the racing rules and go, how is that?
Yeah, some people are
penalty?
convinced that it's Sainz's fault, and but like you say, it's the racing rules.
The fans gave Ollie Behrman a 6 out of 10. Esteban Ocon started the race in 15th, finished 15th.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. Slower than his rookie teammate. Didn't look to have the pace of him. Of course, he tried the usual Haas strategy of praying for trying something crazy, which I respect them for, because why not? Didn't work. Of course, he had the incident with Stroll. One thing I want to ask about that because we had this discussion yesterday about that incident with Stroll. So if Tsunoda doesn't need to give room to Lawson,
yeah.
Did Ocon not need to give room to Stroll?
Well, we're talking about the corner here as opposed to on the lead up to the corner. I think that's probably where, you can't just shove a person onto the grass before we get to the braking zone. I'd need to watch it again.
So is it the fact that Yuki Lawson was still on the track, so that's why they gave it? Because, if you don't need to give them room, Stroll was never really going to make that pass, was he? So
yeah. I mean, look, this is where it gets into the absolute depths of hell with these racing rules.
Because Stroll is absolutely nowhere near alongside his mirror at this point. I think Stroll's gone into a gap that was never there, and Ocon's got a penalty for it, personally. But, hey, here we go.
For me, Esteban Ocon gets a 4 out of 10 as well. Poor weekend, but it's interesting when you look back at the race. He was 2 seconds behind Albon, or 2.5 seconds behind Albon, past the halfway distance. And then you have Albon, of course, finishing well up in the points. But Ocon, it just seems as though his tyres fell off pretty massively towards the end of that hard stint, and it just ruined any opportunity for him to score any points. So it's a shame because, as I say, he was with Albon, but it just fell off in that later stage of the first. I was going to say the first stint, but the first stint was basically the entire race for Ocon. The fans gave Ocon a 5. Franco Colapinto started the race in 17th, finished 17th. I've gone for a 5 for Franco Colapinto because he actually did all right this weekend. Alpine are in a championship of their own. They are Formula 2 or Formula 1.5, whatever you want to call it.
They are like Haas, aren't they, in 2021, or was it, where they're just on their own?
Exactly. And Colapinto qualified well. He finished ahead. Oh, no, he was just behind, Gasly at the end, wasn't he?
He let him through, though.
Yeah, they were swapping around left, right and centre, those two. But Colapinto to be with Gasly... Oh, God, is it even more than that? Like, the Alpines is a tractor. I'm giving him a 6, actually, Franco Colapinto. You know what? A 10. No, I'm not going to give him a 10. And I'm going to give him a 6, because, look, we sometimes just look over potential great results, as we know from Alex Albon's interview, and the fact that he once saw us give him a 4 when he said he got the best result of his life. Franco deserves a 6, because to be with your very experienced race winner teammate around this track should be commended for someone with such little experience. So I've gone for a 6. Thank you very much. Well done, Franco.
Interesting, because I was between a 5 and a 6. Just one thing to throw into the mix even more about the fact that he's inexperienced. He also didn't do FP1 as well. So missed out on that running time. Still out-qualified Gasly. Yes, people will go, oh my God, he finished 17th, and how are you giving him a 6? But Alpine are their own, like they're in their own race. Colapinto let Gasly through at the end, so without that bit of team play, probably could have beaten him. And it needs to be applauded, because all he can do really in that Alpine now is be comparable to his teammate. And actually, I think he was the better driver than Gasly this weekend, and we all know how good Gasly is around this track. So, I think he deserves credit for that. So I'll go for a 6 as well.
The fans gave him a 4. Not happy in the
Savage.
slightest with Franco's. Should have won the race in that Alpine, realistically.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we get so much criticism. That one is a dreadful rating from you lot. Right, let's move to Pierre Gasly. Started the race from the pit lane, finished 16th.
I've gone for a 5. Again, Alpine, they're on their own. Can't really do a lot. Of course, modified his car under Parc Fermé after starting from the pit lane. But you would expect Gasly to be comfortably ahead of Colapinto based on the fact that Colapinto, didn't do FP1, is very inexperienced and's come in mid-season in that car. And expected more from Gasly, even though it's a tough fight. I mean, this is the thing with Alpine, right? Colapinto and Gasly might have won the race in the McLaren. You just don't know. Like, they might have had, as we mentioned in that Alex Albon chat, and I think we said it to Carlos as well, you never know if they've had the greatest race of their life. But they're driving an Alpine and it's terrible. So yeah, it's a 5 for Gasly.
And we just give some silly little numbers, and we hope that we get somewhere close. For me, Pierre Gasly gets a 5 out of 10 as well. I agree with everything that you've said, to be honest with you, Tommy. You expect a little bit more in the head-to-head team battle. Of course, Gasly did start from the pit lane, but not the difference between the two teammates aren't as big as perhaps I would have expected, considering Colapinto's struggles when he first started. So yeah, a 5 out of 10 for Gasly, because they have become the I don't really know how they've done team, because they are very slow. The fans gave him a 5 as well. They agree. They don't know. Lance Stroll started the race in 16th, finished 18th. I have gone for a 4 out of 10. Yes, it looks terrible that he's finished 18th, and I've still graded him, obviously, on the lower end of the scale. However, he did have a 16-second pit stop at the end, which I am going to highlight, because he would not have finished behind the Alpines, perhaps not even finished behind Ocon or Lawson. Maybe even finished ahead of Tsunoda. We don't know. But he had a very long pit stop. He would have obviously been miles behind Alonso had Alonso actually finished, because Alonso was doing GOAT things. So the Aston did have pace. But he doesn't deserve any lower than a 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 4 as well.
I can tell I've convinced Tommy to.
No, I was umming and ahhing about a 5, to be honest. Because I had the pit stop in mind, but looking at where he qualified is really poor compared to his teammate. So yeah, it's got to be a 4. He obviously did his usual qualifying quite poorly and staying out hoping for the dream strategy that sometimes pays off for him, where he gets a lovely little P7 or a P8, but this time it didn't happen. But the actual finishing position of 18th is more down to that slow pit stop at the end. He would have just finished well out the points.
Exactly. The fans gave Lance a 3. Fernando Alonso started the race in 8th, did not finish.
I'm going to go for an 8 out of 10. He was running with Bortoleto. I don't think the Aston should have been there this weekend. I don't think that car would suit Monza, which I know Lance Stroll has never been good at qualifying, but they have been close occasionally in qualifying and things, even if Alonso has, of course, whitewashed him this year in qualifying. But yeah, the fact that he was racing in the points and could have scored some really good points. I know some people will jump on the fact that, like, he hit the curb weird, but, like, you don't expect your entire suspension to break for going on a curb. Like, that is bad luck. I don't believe you can count that as a driver error, but of course I'd say that because it's Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, of course you would. I've gone for a 7 out of 10. It's a nod to the fact that, yeah, he was in the points, but he only made it to half race distance, so I'm not going to absolutely expect the fact that, that he would have scored a huge amount of points. We don't know. And it is a small driver error. He's run wider than any driver does go there. I agree that the suspension should not have just turned in on itself, but at the same time, a marginal one, which had big consequences for Alonso. But up until that point, it was a really good weekend. And once again, his season is just a disaster, isn't it? Like there is some powers over him that are saying, no, Lance Stroll will beat you in the championship. Will beat you,
yeah. He even said this in the... he didn't say this exact.
Is that power Lawrence Stroll? That's what I'm saying right now. Like... the fans gave Fernando a 7. Kimi Antonelli started the race in 6th, finished 9th. I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Kimi Antonelli. Looked promising after qualifying. Finished down in 9th. He received a 5-second penalty for driving erratically, which dropped him behind Bortoleto. You got Russell up there in 5th, having a lovely chill time, and Antonelli is over 20 seconds behind, I think, at the end. So it's an okay weekend for Kimi. It's a 6. It's not anything dreadful. He scored a couple of points, but you also think about the mistakes he made in practice. I don't think that's necessarily, he hasn't destroyed his car as such, but it's nowhere near the level of what we have seen from Kimi, like in Canada this year. So that's why I've gone for a 6.
I've gone for a 4 for Kimi Antonelli. I think it was a really poor weekend from him. Another mistake in practice, which piles all that pressure on. Then he actually had a good qualifying and then dropped back at the start. Then, finishing
Tommy,
behind...
I can hear the keyboards.
Yeah.
I can hear the keyboards. No, it's great. No, I
think
hear them.
and this is coming from a
stan.
Kimi fan and wanting him to do well, and said that he was going to beat George Russell this year. But he's been so underwhelming, and like this race was enough for Toto Wolff to basically come out and say, yeah, he's not delivering as we expected for the first time. You shouldn't be being beaten by a Williams that started 14th, was it, from Albon, and a Sauber, a track that's not got a huge amount to it. Of course, had the incident with Albon as well for driving erratically. I just think it was a poor race from Antonelli, even though he's got points, 30 seconds behind George Russell when he started next to him on the grid. I don't think is good enough.
You've absolutely decimated him. But fair enough. Okay, Kimi Antonelli. I say fair enough. I disagree. But that's good. I think that might be one of the only times we've had more than a 1-point discrepancy in driver ratings, and I'm here for it. Keep it up. Who is the Kimi stan now? I think I've just taken that crown. The fans gave Antonelli a 6 out of 10. George Russell started the race in 5th, finished 5th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for George Russell. I think he did the kind of best he could in that car, really. Didn't have the pace of the Ferraris, the McLarens and Max, so just more solid points on the board in what's been a good season for him. Very anonymous, really.
Yeah, it was an incredibly anonymous race, not much to really speak about, and he didn't change from his quali position. I've gone for an 8 out of 10 as well. A solid weekend in a Mercedes that he is questioning, right? He thinks it's such a strange season that Max could win by 20 seconds one week and then McLaren can dominate by nearly a minute at another track. It's a crazy season for us to watch, and it's mad to think that even the drivers and teams are questioning how on earth this is happening. But no, it was a solid weekend from George, and it's an 8 out of 10. The fans gave him an 8 as well. Yuki Tsunoda started the race in 9th, finished 13th. I've gone for a 3 out of 10. Your teammates won the race, and on lap 53, I know he got some damage from the Lawson thing. He's saying it was massive damage. I failed to see where loads of parts fell off, but you have to take that there was some damage on the car. But your teammates won the race, and you're fighting Liam Lawson for out of the points at the time that happened. Your teammates won by 20 seconds in a Red Bull that clearly worked this weekend. How can I give him any higher than a 3? I know he's got through to Q3, but he hasn't ended up in the points in the end. I don't think he had any. I think he was fine in terms of that Tsunoda Lawson incident, as we mentioned when we were doing Liam's grade. But he's in a race-winning car. I know it's the second Red Bull seat, but you have to still factor that in. And yeah, it's tough to watch. I don't want to see Yuki down here, but it's a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I've gone for a 3 out of 10 as well for Yuki Tsunoda. Have to. Yeah, whatever you say about that second seat, you have to grade him as we did with Sergio Perez, as we did with Lawson at the start of the season. And Max Verstappen's won the race by a massive margin and was basically maybe 2 or 3 laps away from lapping Yuki Tsunoda. A complete disaster to not get even a single point during a race weekend where Max Verstappen's won the race. I don't know how you can give him a higher grade than that.
The fans did. They gave him a 4. So still not the greatest of grades, though. Only 1 point difference. Let's go to Max Verstappen. Started the race in 1st, finished 1st.
I've gone for a 10 out of 10. Easy 10. It's funny because last week I thought he did incredibly well in Zandvoort to get P2, and I think I even said I can't give him a 10 even though no one can beat the McLarens now, because you do think that maybe by some miracle Max could still do it, and then in the very next race he beats them by 20 seconds. I think the most impressive thing for me is it's not even a win, and this is not to discredit his other couple of wins, but it's a win where he's actually managed to grab back that first place as well. It's not been a case of getting to the first corner first, and it's very difficult to overtake like a Suzuka or whatever, and he stayed ahead and won the race, and it's mainly been kind of one in qualifying. This, he qualified well, very, very well. The way he grabbed back the win after I thought it was kind of over for him, and then just looked so dominant. It was such an impressive drive. One of the best of the year for sure.
Absolutely. I've gone for a 9 out of 10. He lost the lead at the start, and poor from him. I'm kidding. Of course, a 10 out of 10. Probably the best weekend in terms of outperforming any expectations coming into Monza. I know we knew McLaren were potentially going to be on not the back foot as such, but there was going to be more competition.
Strong,
but we did not expect Max to win by 20 seconds. Toto Wolff coming out after the race saying that everybody basically needs to reevaluate what they're doing. So only one driver out there did the job. I feel like we were back in sort of 2023. Max just absolutely untouchable out in front. His lap times, as I think I mentioned in the main race podcast, it was just mesmerizing to watch the consistency that he was putting in those times. And despite the fact that he was forced to go really long, which is where, of course, the McLarens would then come into their own a little bit more with their tyre wear or lack of tyre wear, Max still held on beautifully and won by a massive margin. So yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. The fans, unsurprisingly, gave him a 10 as well. Lewis Hamilton started the race from 10th after being penalised 5 places for the yellow flag infringement from the previous round. Finished 6th. I've been very. It's gonna be a 7 out of 10. It was a good performance. He was making great moves at the start. What I'm then going to give his teammate, I can't give Lewis the same grade as him. Shock, because I'm a Charles Leclerc fan. No, I'm joking. Please listen to my thoughts and opinions. 7's not a bad grade by any stretch of the imagination. It's a nod to the fact that he made some great moves at the start, put himself in a good position to kind of solidify P6, but that's about as far as he could get. He qualified behind his teammate as well. Yeah, it's a solid 7 out of 10, but I'm not going to give him any higher.
Yeah, I've gone for a 7 as well for Lewis Hamilton. It is a high 7, and spoiler alert, I can't give him the same as Leclerc, even if you take that penalty into account.
Yeah, because where do you take that into account? Do you take that from Zandvoort?
Because it's unlucky, and he actually had good pace as well, and it's a real shame that he had that penalty, and I'm not taking that into account for this grade. Of course, he qualified 6th, so a couple of places behind Leclerc. Made it through to P6. Maybe if he'd got George Russell as well, maybe it would have been an 8, but it's a tough one.
Yes, the fans gave him an 8 out of 10. Charles Leclerc started the race in 4th, finished 4th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10. It's got to be higher than Lewis Hamilton because he's out-qualified him, and I do think that, and this is a reason that I can't give him a 9, is that maybe there was more from him in qualifying. I think he did make a little mistake on that last run. I do think that he probably would have been able to beat the McLarens anyway with the pace the Ferrari had, but you never know. I do think we've seen Charles Leclerc pull out these miracle laps in qualifying before, and had he done that, maybe he could have started pole. It was P4, and he just raced to P4. It's a good result based on where Ferrari are, but it can't be any higher. But it has to be higher than his teammate.
Yeah, and your logic, it matches up, because I've gone for an 8 out of 10 as well for Charles Leclerc. Qualifying was where there was an opportunity to get in the mix, at least, to upset the rhythm of the McLarens in 2nd and 3rd. Max is well gone. Max is gone. Doesn't matter if you qualified on pole. Max was coming through. But for the McLarens, Charles was not far away after the whole kerfuffle of Piastri and Norris and the pit stop shenanigans.
He arguably caused that whole kerfuffle by being close.
Yeah, my guy Charles. It's a 10 out of 10. I'm kidding. Leclerc just had a slightly better weekend than Hamilton, so that's why I've gone for an 8. But no, I don't think any deserving of any higher. That curb at the first chicane still haunts me. From qualifying. That was pole. The fans gave Charles an 8 as well. Oscar Piastri started the race in 3rd, finished 3rd. Oh, the McLaren drivers. I wondered about this one for a very long time. I've gone for an 8 out of 10. Just a marginally worse weekend than his teammate Lando. They missed out by a very small margin in qualifying. He was slower than Lando in the initial phase of the race, but then started to come back towards the sort of latter part of that first stint. But I think it's clearly so difficult around Monza, even though the first couple of laps felt like, overtaking, we can actually do it now. Clearly not, because everybody was just separated by 6 seconds, it felt, for ages. And then, the whole shenanigans, nothing to do with Oscar, really. I'm not going to downgrade him for letting his teammate through or anything like that. That's not really where my grade is going to be affected. But yeah, it's an 8.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 as well for Oscar Piastri. More often than not, I think this season, he's been the quicker McLaren driver over the weekend. But this one, it wasn't the case. Didn't have the pace of his teammate. It was close again, as it always is with the two of them. But I think he was the slower McLaren driver, of course. None of this kerfuffle that I'm still have exactly the same opinion on, that it was ridiculous to do, comes into effect, and I've not downgraded him in any way for letting Lando through or anything that happened there. One thing I will say is we mentioned Leclerc being like the best wheel-to-wheel racer in F1 at the moment. Like Piastri is coming for that crown at the moment, because that move was unbelievable at the first Lesmo. And what's an insane thing that I thought about as well, it's probably not even his best move of the year, because he did that amazing one on Hamilton in Australia, the chicane in the wet as well.
He was driving like a man possessed for that one, wasn't he?
His racecraft is unbelievable.
The fans gave Oscar an 8 as well. Lando Norris started the race in second, finished second.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10. In my opinion, it has to be higher than Piastri. He was the quicker driver this weekend, just like last week. Piastri got a 10 from me and Lando got a 9 because Piastri was quicker, even though it was close. Same again this week. I'm not taking into account any of the crazy situation with McLaren and all that kind of stuff that happened. But I was actually very impressed with Lando's start, and I'll be honest, I didn't know he maybe even had it in him to do something like that, because once he got pushed wide by Max and onto that grass, when obviously the grass came out with the nature of how Monza is this very wide patch of tarmac and then becomes the grass, I thought, well, that's surely curtains for his chance, because he got a really good start. So to still, get off the brakes, make the turn, and be able to make that move on Max, I was very impressed by that. That's what Lando needs to do if he really wants to, challenge for this championship. So yeah, he had a good race. Can't, of course, be a 10 because McLaren are just so good this year that you feel like they should be winning every race. But I personally believe that he deserves to get a higher grade than Oscar Piastri because he was quicker.
This is where the one time, actually no, I about 100 times in driver ratings I've wished for half grades, and this was kind of the one where I was like, can I give an entire grade higher than Oscar when they have been very close? You've convinced me. I'll go for a 9 out of 10 for Lando, and it's a very good point that you make, Tommy, about lap 1. When he dipped his wheels on the grass, I'm thinking that's either going to be a crash if he tries to overtake Max, because his tyres have just been dirtied. That's not a word, but they were dirty. Or he's going to lose a position to Oscar or to Charles or whatever in that first chicane. But instead, it was perfectly judged in the sense of diving down the inside. He stays on the track. Max has to bail out. Racing rules, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. But Lando did a great job. And it was something that we have asked of him to do since God knows when. I am still absolutely baffled to my core that he offered Piastri to pit first.
Yeah, definitely.
To save him from Charles Leclerc. This is the one thing that I'm really struggling to get my head around, of like you're battling your teammate for the World Championship and you're trying to save him points. That was utterly bizarre to me. Some people say, he's a good teammate. They've won the Constructors.
They've won it.
Please don't give Oscar good strategies when you're trying to beat him.
I cannot believe, and I know this is rich coming from me, because I've basically the whole time been like, everyone's entitled to their opinion for drive ratings, but I respectfully disagree that anyone can think that what McLaren did was the right thing. I don't buy Oscar Piastri even coming out with a very PR-friendly answer of, yes, it was fair, of course McLaren will want him to say that, and that to me just screams that they want to keep the peace, and that's what the drivers are, that's the way they're going to play this championship. But I still don't agree with it and don't like to see it.
Yeah, I'm also wondering, like, Oscar's chill nature about it. Of course, Oscar is chill anyway. But hypothetically, you put that situation where he's 3 points ahead of Lando in the championship rather than 30-odd that he was. Does he have the same reaction? Because I don't think so.
Yeah. A lot of people now feel, and some will argue he won't get this because it's Lando's team and there's a lot of talk about now favouritism over Lando, that he's essentially like bagged a fact that they owe him one, and it's only for a very small amount of points. So when it comes to a race, when it comes to a race win between first and second, he can almost cash in that token for more points. Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's it's a 6-point swing, but it's a much bigger swing when it's between first and second. But hey, that's what they were going to do anyway, Tommy. Doesn't matter if it happens 4 times to the same driver. There are no tokens here. We are a fair team.
But and this is one thing I didn't mention, but I saw some people mentioning as well, and I've seen some people saying this online. What makes it even worse is this slow pit stop situation. What is a slow pit stop? So like in the next
where's
race,
the
is
limit?
4 seconds a slow pit stop? Because normally it's 2. So then does Lando have to move back 2 seconds? Like what is the deal with that? This is why it's piled so much more pressure on McLaren, I think.
Anyway, back to Lando's grade. The fans gave him an 8. Did not believe that he deserved slightly more than Oscar this weekend. Okay, and finally, who is our P1? Who does it go to? I wonder. Let me think. Max Verstappen. I think the only 10 that I gave today was Max Verstappen. So it has to be Max, fully deserving. And championship back on?
No, sadly not. I wish it was. I think it is an outlier, that result. Of course, P1 is Max as well. My only 10 grade. It was one of those races where he showed why everyone, like majority of people, of course there'll always be haters, but people think is the best in Formula One. And what an insane moment as well after the race that Toto said, one driver out there has made everyone else look stupid. I'm like, what does George Russell think of you saying things like this?
I know. George is out there going, I've done the maximum I could
because they still
today.
don't have a contract either, do they? And it's mad. It's mad.
Absolutely wild. And the final thing I'm going to leave you with, which is what you sent me actually, Tommy, but I'm going to share it with everyone, which is essentially a championship back on scenario with Max Verstappen, so we have just come off the back of Monza, of course. So what needs to happen from here on in is, of course, Max win every single race and sprint. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus the 2 sprints that are left. That's correct. Piastri would have to DNF in Baku and then have 5 seconds and 2/3. I mean, that's doable. And then Norris, he can essentially finish on the podium for almost all of them, and it would not matter because Max Verstappen would win the championship on countback. 444 points each, Verstappen and Piastri, if that was to happen, Tommy. So are you telling me it's not championship back?
It's not going to happen. As
I
much
just
as I
find
wanted
it
to
a very
watch that.
fascinating
It's funny,
table
it's
to
funny,
look at.
isn't it? Yeah.
And imagine if
until he wins in
happened.
Baku,
My
they
God.
both crash into each other, or one of the McLarens crashes, then the other one's told to crash to make it fair.
Of course.
Then, of course, Max gets the points.
Yeah, Max
and then
could actually
back in.
take advantage of this fair rule by McLaren.
I wouldn't put it past Max. If one of the McLarens did crash or retire, he got a team radio from Max going, shouldn't the other McLaren know crash?
I'll be leading soon. The other McLaren will be coming in. Right, that's it. We poke fun, of course we do. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to this driver ratings. Of course, we have a week off before we go to Baku. Tommy, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are shout out to Australia again for just being amazing. Adelaide tickets are now on sale and going very quickly, so grab them because you wanted them, that's for sure, based on the comments.
You wanted them, and now you've got them. Just to clarify, Australia, the 5th of May is Adelaide, the Norwood Concert Hall. 6th of May is Melbourne, National Theatre. 7th of May is Melbourne, National Theatre. 9th of May is Sydney, double header, York Theatre, obviously for both of them. And then we have the 11th of May, Brisbane at the Tivoli, and then the 13th of May, Perth, Astor Theatre. And the tickets are flying off the shelves. So if you want to come and see us, we probably won't come to Australia every year. It's a very long way. Then please come and see us. We'd love to have you at our show. Right, that is it. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.